Hi, my name is Shark Punch. I work in film, television, and I produce digital content for the internet. For the last 15 years, I have been on this amazing journey in digital entertainment. From getting discovered by Michael Bay to working on the TV show Shameless as a dolly grip, and this show is about that continued journey. Every episode, I will share with you my thoughts on things that I love gaming, technology, entertainment, and whatever other nonsense I can come up with. A steel phoenix rises from the ashes, stronger from the flames that forged it. I did it, so can you, and the journey starts right now. Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode. This is episode 3 of the Steel Phoenix podcast. We're going to have our G10 coverage, of course, today. And I guess I wanted to talk to everybody about our mission statement in... I don't know. I wax eloquent about this kind of stuff, or ineloquent, depending on what your perspective is. It's just kind of, it's hard to put into words. I was thinking about it earlier today, and I thought about it, and I said something, I think, on the last show about why this is important. And I keep watching Newsroom, and it's just driving me nuts, because the G10 thing, the network thing, is it's... I don't know, it's got to be now. I mean, Bitcoin is now. A lot of the tech stuff I'm talking about is now. I was working on a script earlier today, and I'm stuck at a part in the script where one of the characters is in a... he's in a micro version of the volume. What the volume is it's a new filming technique, I guess you could say. That it's basically, they take a room and make it a circle, but all the walls and the ceiling are digital panels, and they're high definition, high quality. And then they take Unreal Engine 5 and they composite whatever background or image or whatever you want on those walls, and it's so high quality that they can film it and it looks like it's real. They can control color, temperature, lights, reflections, everything. And so what you have to do is dress the floor, put any big set pieces that are in the room that the characters are going to interact with, put them in hair, makeup, and wardrobe, and give them props. And a lot of the rest of it can happen in the volume. And once you've built a volume, it's very expensive to build, but once it's done, you can shoot a universe in there, and it saves millions of dollars. It costs millions to make, but once you've done it, you've done it. And it is absolutely the future of cinema, and it's going to be one of the foundational mechanisms that creates this bridge between cinema, technology, and video games. It is absolutely going to be our reality. I know this. I've been talking about this. I've been talking about the volume before it was called the volume. And Jon Favreau really is the person that brought it to light, and they're going to credit him with creating it. There were other people in film that were talking about this before The Mandalorian happened, but there's no way to prove that. I don't know how I can prove the conversation I had with somebody on a green screen 2 years ago. I don't know. I mean, I have pictures of the green screen, but it doesn't prove anything. It just proves that I was there. It doesn't prove that we had this conversation and talked about it. And, a guy offered me a job. It's one of those things where part of the reason to do this show, to do this podcast, is that I can say things that I'm thinking before they happen, and then it's my proof. But more than the proof, it's the motivation or the inspiration that someone will take something that I've said, an idea that I've said, that has different resources than me, and they can make it happen. And I guess it's not more than the proof, but it's equal to it. Or maybe someone will get inspired. What I was thinking about earlier today, and I just think it's really important to share with the show, is that when you're somebody who is an idea person, and you're constantly having ideas and you're writing them down, and it can be in the form of hustles or whatever it is. For me, I'm a creative idea person. I see a problem and then I figure out how to solve it. I invent things in my head or processes, or I fix things all the time in my mind. And it's often a very lonely place to be. It requires hours of detail, hours of thought, weeks and months of focused concentration, uninterrupted by anything else. And most of my life I have not had that. That would be an insane luxury. COVID's kind of giving me the most free time I've had ever in my life since I was a kid to focus on my thoughts and inventions. And so this mechanism of this show is part of my process in inventing things. It's part of my process in coming up with ideas and documenting it. Like, I have 3 blogs that I sporadically contribute to, partly because no one reads them. I mean, I have a producing blog that literally 0 people have read, and it's been up for 5 years. I've advertised these blogs on my Facebook page and other places, and it just, I know why they're not getting read. It's I'm not promoting it right and a bunch of other stuff. I'm just not putting the time into the social media. But at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, I don't know if that is as important as it is that I'm writing them. It's more important that I'm documenting this, that I'm saying what I'm saying, that I'm putting the time in to actually go through that process. And, sometimes I just need to fucking write. It's important to take your ideas and put them somewhere, and then it's important also to share the inspiration from those ideas and share the fact that people who are like me are not alone. When you're stuck in this place where you feel like you can't contribute as much as you want to. Sorry, my beard is driving me crazy. It can get better. And to not give up hope, and to know that you're not the only person out there who's frustrated because the concepts and ideas in your head, every year goes by and somebody figures it out, and fuck, I'm going to figure something else out, and it's not going to matter because I'm not going to have the time to do it because I've got to work 2 jobs or kids or whatever it is. The beauty of what's happening in life now is that there is no limit. There's no more time limit. The internet is making, if nothing else, the documentation of your concepts possible. And it's making it possible to share with other people. And there's just maybe a chance. Imagine that there's a chance that somebody who has the technical know-how to do something you really want to do gets inspired by one of your concepts, one of your ideas. And you're able to collaborate with someone. Collaboration's tough because if you're the idea person, the thing, at least for me, that I'm always worried about is, okay, we've come this far, what's the point that you're going to steal from me? What's the point that the person with the technical know-how is going to take what's mine, run with it, and decide that they no longer want to share with me. Oh, well, there's ways to protect yourselves, and sure there is, and I know some of those ways. Maybe some of you don't, and maybe that's something we can collaborate on. That's part of the point of the show, I guess. It's definitely something that I talk about on my live stream, and it's something I try to help people with in terms of copyright for writing scripts. Writing novels is a similar process, but anything out of the written work, if I'm talking about patents, I don't have any patents currently. I mean, I have things that I should patent, but I don't have a patent pending on some things. Some things, it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's lack of belief. For me, I've always found that I needed permission. I needed mental permission to pursue certain things. Because, and it's odd, I didn't feel like I had the right to do it. Who the fuck are you to pursue this? You're nobody. You're not an engineer. You're not anything great. You don't have 50 degrees. It was said in a family conversation a while ago. Somebody mentioned, well, we're all hypothesizing about this when there's only one person on this conversation who has a right to talk about this at all. And I said in response, well, by that logic, I have a right to say nothing. I have a right to never talk. Because my level of education is so sporadic. I've been to college 3 different times. I don't have any kind of advanced degree. And, somebody would remind me, well, you graduated high school at 16 or whatever. That didn't help me. That does nothing. I took a stupid test because I thought I was going to go into the Army. That's not what happened. I took that test, I got out, and I screwed around for 2 years. And then I ended up going to college in a different part of the state. I should have gone to the Army. It's one of the biggest regrets of my life. But it's also something that, I can't go back and change that. What I can do is take everything I have, every ounce of what I have, and put it into what I'm doing right now, and put it into my future, and put it into, things that'll help veterans and soldiers that are coming back from war deal with life. My partner has a huge thing in her heart for elderly folks, as do I. But it's a real big burden for her, and it's wise, because we're all going to end up there. I'm closer to being elderly than I am to being young. And it's in like 2 decades or so, one health issue can kill you. I can just come up and hit you, and you can be perfectly healthy otherwise. You can actually be in great shape, and it doesn't matter. That's one of the things about being fucking old. And you can piss off your kids, and you can piss off your relatives, and then nobody's calling you, and it's a fast, slippery slope to die by yourself or to be in some facility that's less than a good care facility. And, there's a lot of things that are scary to consider about old age, and it's something that most of the people I know don't want to fucking think about it. They do not think about it. They don't have a plan, and that's the same way that we treat our veterans. It's the same thing. We don't want to think about it. There is no plan. Let the VA handle it. The VA's fucking been broken for decades. The VA knows it. The people that work at the VA, they're like, hey, we're fucking broken. We need help. We need resources. We need other shit. And they don't ever have it. This is just stuff, This is not... I'm thinking of this because the G10 podcast, the concept, is what it really is gaming, technology, entertainment, news, network, or network news. That's how it's going to work. It was going to be a news program where it's going to be a news program where something like it is going to happen, where people are going to get together. They're going to talk about those things intelligently. They're going to do the research, and It's going to be a broadcast, and I keep saying to myself, why the fuck am I not doing this? Why isn't this what I'm doing? Well, it's the middle of COVID, so what the vision in my mind is an actual broadcast studio where we actually do this the way they do the news. We talk about gaming seriously, and it's at the top of every hour. We talk about technology seriously, and it's at the top of every hour. We talk about entertainment as it pertains to technology and gaming. We're going to talk about entertainment in the digital sense and in the business sense, not in the which celebrity slept with who or who went out on what date with who. It's not going to be, when people say entertainment news, you think of gossip. And that's not, I don't give a shit about that. I don't care what someone said at the ESPY Awards. I don't care what somebody said at the Oscars in this context. In the context of this show, that wouldn't be news. Unless they were making a revelation that changed the film industry or changed the music industry. I can't, the camera alignment's freaking me out here. I'm also doing video for those of you that are just audio. I also have a video. There's video to this. It's one of those things that I've just been working on for so long. It's just been a dream for so long. It's been in my head for so long, and I know that this show and the other show are steps towards that. I've been looking at and considering doing a YouTube channel. One of the things that's bugging me is that I can do stuff, and maybe I'll experiment with this some. And, you know, I've been looking at this Mr. Beast kid who 5 years ago was not making anything on his YouTube channel and had no followers. And he counts to 100,000, and it's a breakthrough, and then he just reinvests everything. And I looked at the numbers and how much that YouTube video made and how much each one of these YouTube video makes. And the money is great. Sorry. And there's a lot of bullshit in there. There's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of stuff that is not, it's essentially 30-second commercial idiot content, which is fine. Sometimes I'm in the mood for that, and I, watch the stupid fucking videos too. Most of the time, I am not. I'm not the person that's going to sit and watch that kind of stuff. I'm just fucking not. I don't care. I want something that's going to engage my mind and make me serious, or I want something that's going to make me laugh, or something that's, most of the time, I want something that's going to take me somewhere else. I want an adventure, I want a story, or I want something serious. But that's me. Comedy, I want to be funny. I want it to be comedy. I don't get off on watching a lot of nut shots or whatever. I'm not, and I don't mean to sound so judgmental and pretentious or whatever about that. That's what I'm really saying is that's not content I want to make. I don't care that content's there, and I know that there's a shitload of work that goes into that. Mr. Beast spends an average of $300,000 on his average video now, and his most expensive one is like $2.7 million. These are production budgets. I've worked on films that have smaller budgets than this and are more complicated and look way fucking... I've directed shit that looks worse than his YouTube videos. And I'm thinking of our budget was $500. This guy's budget's $300,000. And it's, I have friends that have made features for that. That's a feature film budget. That's an independent feature film. That's more than the budget for the Blair Witch Project. I don't know that he made as much money as Blair Witch did, but he made a lot of money on those videos. His take home is insane. And he controls all of it. He doesn't have to split it with a fucking studio. He doesn't have to split it with 9 other intermediaries or I talk about these 9 windows of distribution all the time on my other on my live stream, and it's painful. It's fucking like all this time in film, and it hasn't. I'm still watching the rich kids go to the party in a Ferrari and steal the band from the artist. You know, the rich kid is showing up in a limo and getting handed an Oscar when they step onto the red carpet that their parents paid for. And I'm looking at a bunch of filmmakers standing on the sidelines who can't even get somebody to watch their amazing show. And it hasn't fucking changed at all in 15 years. It's the same fucking thing. First film contest we entered in with the guys I was with originally in Southern California, the people that won the film contest had professional stuntmen, professional squibs, professional pyrotechnics. They had a helicopter and exploded the roof of a building. And it was a 24-hour film festival. And that was one of the top 3 wins or whatever. And I watched that and I thought to myself, that's not innovation, that's not creativity. What that is somebody throwing a budget at a project that had some innovation, some creativity, but now you have thousands and thousands and thousands of submissions that are really creative, that people put a lot of fucking hope into. And I look at that, and to have that anywhere in the top 10, just, it said a lot about the industry. And it's still fucking true. It's still true. There's all of these people that are born with the toys, so to speak, and they're just handed more toys. And then there's the rest of us who have to try to create our toys. I've spent a long time trying to survive in the business because I wanted to touch the magic still. I wanted to be on set. I don't want to be away from set. I don't want to be away from doing what I love, even if I'm a scrub. And it's not... The issue for me is that the clock is ticking, and being a scrub is not getting it done. I'm no closer to directing a feature, working as a grip, on any show that I've ever worked on. That is not going to get me closer. I'm looking at a reality where the end of, I don't know, midway through 2020, I got a chance to be attached to it's now an $8 million feature film. I'm technically a co-executive producer on the piece, and it's good. It has not opened as many doors as I thought it would. And it's just, there's what I had hoped was going to happen. There's what I feared was going to happen. And then there's what actually happened, somewhere in the middle. And it's still the same thing. It's just continually the same fucking thing. It's probably the number one lesson that I keep having to learn. If you're not creating and you don't control it, you're gonna get beat up. If you're trying to help somebody, you're gonna get beat up. It just is over and over and over and over and over for me. For my partner, Jerry Berry, she gets... Jerry Berry's not a real name. It's her gamer tag on the live stream, so people know who it is. She gets a lot out of those experiences. She gets a lot out of it, and because she doesn't get beat up the same way I do. And so it's the kind of thing where I just want to encourage people to make your own shit. Make your own stuff. Stay as much in control of what you're doing as you can. Write it, produce it, direct it, but learn what all of those things mean. Spend the time to learn what the fuck that is. Start small and get bigger. It's what I'm doing. It's what 2021 has got to be about for me. Part of the problem is that I share my brain with people. They use me, and they discard me like tissue. Contracts, whatever. And I'm not talking about this last project. I'm talking about just in general. And that sucks the life out of me. And as that sucks the life out of me, it's just toxic. It's bad for your soul. And everybody in film, not everybody, but a lot of people are walking around and they're the victim. Oh, I've been used, I invested in this, or I brought people to the table in this, and it's everyone uses me. So to say that, that's the same fucking sob story. Every single fucking person who hasn't made it in film has the exact same story. And it's everyone else's fault. Everyone else is using them. Everyone else is manipulating them. Everyone else is this. Everyone else is that. It's these other people's fault because I don't know somebody that doesn't have 10 fucking stories. You know who doesn't have those stories? The people that made it. And I'm not saying they don't. They do have those stories, but you hear Guillermo del Toro, and I keep talking about him. I was just really impressed with the roundtable he did. The 3 or 4 of them I've seen. His mindset, his attitude with approaching things. And there's a reason I can see that Robert Rodriguez and Guillermo would get along. You know, it's this, I need to get it done, and I need to shoot what I want to shoot, and get it done the way I know it can be done, and have the confidence to do what I really want to do. And to fight for things that I know need to be in there. And to spend the time in the detail. I don't know. It's not a G10 format rant, but I'm still talking about all those things. And the G10 thing is because the new news network concept, the replacement for G4 is digging at the back of my brain. Like I did research on Super Meat Boy forever and kind of looked at that, which I don't actually play Super Meat Boy, but a couple of times. But I love the idea. I love the small company. I love the character, and as a merchandising thing, I think it's brilliant. And the concept is funny and gross all at the same time, and kind of disturbing, but in a fun way. I think it's a great independent film, or independent video game. And that made me think about Dragon Warrior. You know, Dragon Warrior was a game on Nintendo that was this... it was kind of like there was Dragon Warrior and then there was Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy took off because you had a team, and Dragon Warrior was just a one dude. Dragon Warrior is probably a game that if they made right now, if they did it right and made it open world, but had the same story, you know, had an expanded version of the story, they could knock Skyrim right out of... I mean, that would be a huge threat because it's set up. And you could add all sorts of... I mean, it just... I feel like Final Fantasy doesn't know what the fuck they have. And they went to a bunch of other different stuff because Final Fantasy is actually something else in Japan than kind of the way it was presented in the US. And as a franchise, the franchise has a lot of iterations in Japan that are not translated here. But the first Final Fantasy, the second Final Fantasy, and the third Final Fantasy is really what I'm talking about. Final Fantasy VII, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, all that stuff, I could... like, just cut it off at Final Fantasy III, and everything else is part of the something else. Those are all good games. They're all great games on the standalone, and there's a lot of amazing stuff in the Final Fantasy franchise after 3, but there's a specific phenomena that it exists in 1, 2, and 3. It's the same concept as Dragon Warrior, and all of those things, what they have in common is Skyrim. They're a version of Skyrim that is squad based, but you control the squad. And why am I bringing this up? Because we're going to be able to shoot this fucking crap in the volume. And then we're going to be able to put a fucking person who's a gamer in the volume in their VR headset. And they're going to be able to play fucking Dragon Warrior in an open world setting where they can run around for months. It's going to be months big and get into airships and get into battles. And you're going to be standing in your fucking living room with a handle of something, and it's going to be a sword, and you're going to be smacking shit in your living room. Or you're going to be in your fucking garage doing it. Or you're going to go to a gaming center and actually have a sword, and somebody else is going to have a sword, and or a, you know, whatever, to shoot spells or whatever the fuck it is. And you're going to go with your friends, and you're going to play through a dungeon at a gaming center with your VR headset on, and you're going to go nuts. You're not going to have to be in a full-body mocap suit. You'll maybe be in comfortable sweats or some shit. And we're going to see this. And it's going to be a type of gaming that is, you'll be able to live broadcast it from these gaming centers. And this is what I was writing about this afternoon, and I couldn't get past the scene, because I knew I built the entire scene, but I didn't know why the fucking character was there. I totally forgot, because it's been a month and a half since I touched that particular script, and it just, god damn it, fucking brain. I didn't leave notes, you know, because it's all in my damn head. The script is at 43 pages. It's going to be a 90, 106 page script, or whatever the hell it is. Probably closer to 106 pages. When this is done, this script is supposed to be a series. Oh, no. I screwed that up. I only have 17 pages left, because it's going to be an hour-long pilot. This is the pilot. Damn it. I called it a feature. It's a pilot. And it's a cyberpunk pilot, and it's something I've been crafting for a few years. But I couldn't get past this scene. And I have to kind of tie up a bunch of loose ends. There's a few threads I'm going to leave open, but some of them I got to tie up for the pilot just to make it interesting, so that there's some sort of, oh wow, that's interesting kind of conclusion. But then it'll leave it open again, so there's these open-ended things, but that are tied together. And then we're going to see, well, we want to see what fucking happens next, and that's, you know, that's how series get made. But I got to figure out the rest of the show and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know where this thread's going. But this character is stuck in the volume, or a gaming lounge evolution of the volume, and it's one dude who's live streaming. He's on a platform similar to Twitch, but it's not Twitch, and he's got a composite, this rifle that's a World War II rifle. It's a sniper rifle, but it's accurate to World War II. And he's in, you know, what a soldier would wear, and he's sniping people in this room, but the overlay looks like he's in fucking France sniping Nazis. And it's, you know, but when you pull back out of it, people are subbing, and there's X number of thousands of people watching this guy, and he's a former corporate executive who has this great live stream. Or still a current executive, and I mean, it's like Jeff Bezos playing, you know, Call of Duty or something. It's fucking just, it's one of those kind of things where everybody's just watching, and the guy actually happens to be good, so it's fun to watch, and, you know, people are subscribing and donating money, and it's ridiculous, but it's happening. That's gonna fucking happen. It's gonna happen. It's not an if, it's a when and a who, and it's gonna fucking happen. There's a line where Scarlett Johansson says in the film We Bought a Zoo, where she says to Matt Damon, she keeps looking at him, and they're talking about this tiger scar that they have to put down, and they've got to have a end of life plan for a big cat, all that kind of stuff. And she keeps looking at him saying, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. That's how I feel about this. It's gonna happen. The groundwork is there. Everything's laid. Everything's mapped out. It's gonna fucking happen. And when we're in that space, there needs to be a news show that talks about this stuff. There's just a big part of me that feels like I'm the guy to put that together. I just don't know how I'm going to get from here to there, which is my own advice to tell me, don't worry about it, just keep doing the work. So it's kind of a cathartic thing for me to explain this to everybody and to talk about it. You know, I still have a bunch more to learn on Python. I have so much more to do in my classes, and it's I've been working on a bunch of other stuff, and now some of that other stuff is starting to get finished, so now I can get back to going to school. I have, I don't know, 13 master classes I'm taking at the same time, but 3 of them are from, I'm taking Aaron Sorkin's writing master class, and then the directing master class that I need to focus on is Ron Howard. So those 2 I've spent the most amount of time in, and I need to finish their courses and then jump into the other ones. So I guess I can update you all on that. But the other thing I'm doing is trying to learn Python. And I've learned some rudimentary stuff, but I really need to get into it, and I've just been fucking neglecting my coursework super bad. You know, I've got to get back to work. Sorry. It's been a long day. We had a battle this morning with Twitch because the live stream, I put in about a 4-hour show, and they have this new thing called Twitch Soundtrack, or Soundtrack by Twitch, and it's all of this music that's supposed to be license free, or the license is taken care of, and you can use it on your live stream, and then it's good to go. Well, I used it on my live stream, and 4 hours into my live stream, my show gets turned off, and I don't know why. And then I get 2 songs that are pinged as copyright, and my fucking show gets muted. So I get kicked out of my live stream, my show gets muted, and I get copyright stuff, and it's from Twitch. So I just went on a giant rampage on Twitch's Twitter, like, what's going on? How can you offer something that's your logo, it's soundtrack by Twitch, and now your program is flagging your software for the music that you gave me to play on my show, and now I can't get that back. I can't fix that. What do you want me to do on my end? And then when you go in there, they're basically presenting, well, we're going to address, we have a FAQ kind of. I said, oh, okay, so you're setting up this lazy text-based response that's a flatlined kind of PR response, but it's not the in-depth, we give a shit, we're fixing it response that everybody wants. It's just, we're going to address your concerns one at a time, like I'm the problem, and giving me homework. And when Twitch should have fixed this from the fucking gate. This shouldn't be an issue now. This should have been taken care of when Twitch launched. Twitch as a beta service should have fixed this, and they didn't. They haven't had the correct answer for this for years now, and it's a lot of people are pissed, but it's not enough. Somebody asked Jeff Bezos about it, and he didn't know what they were talking about. It's how little concern he has for Twitch. It's just not. It doesn't make up one. It's like General Electric talking about Universal Studios. It makes up less than 1% of their portfolio. They don't give a shit, which is why they were happy to sell the studio. So anyways, we covered Super Meat Boy, which was our G, programming language, which was our T, Stanley Kubrick, music and filming is going to be our entertainment. I've been on a Stanley Kubrick kick. I'm always on a Kubrick kick, but one of the things that Spielberg was saying in this documentary, I keep watching on the live stream, it's narrated by Tom Cruise, and everybody you could think of is in it. Steven Spielberg's in it. Martin Scorsese's in it. Obviously Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman are in it. Just tons and tons and tons of people that are... Kubrick's family's in it, his wife's in it, his daughters are in it, are just talking about him and the filmmaking process, his his producer, his directors, writers he's worked with, just anybody and everybody. And then it's showing a bunch of footage of Stanley talking and the making of this. Jack Nicholson's in it. It's a really good documentary. And the thing that is talked about over and over and over again, it's the thing that Spielberg took from Kubrick as a lesson, which is fucking crazy because you think about it. Kubrick directed Eyes Wide Shut and Spielberg directed AI for Kubrick, which Kubrick created it, reached out to Steven and said, you know, you should direct this, not me, it should be you. And so you look at those movies. So it's really, Kubrick's directed 13 movies. He's made however many. It's not 14. I looked it up on IMDb. There's other shit he's directed that counts. But everyone will say it's just 13 movies. But it's actually more than that. The thing about it for me is music. And if you come to the live stream and watch me write the Cyberpunk script, everything I'm doing, the scenes, the setup, it's all set to classical music. I'm taking classical music and infusing it in my version of the future. It's my response to Orwell's 1984. It's 2084 because 2184 is ridiculous and 2084 is fast approaching, and I'm not going to be right about everything, but I'm going to be right about some stuff. This is the big thing that I want to say with all of that. When saturation happens, when the internet finally speaks its first words, it is not going to lead us to a permanent dystopia. Cyberpunk 2077, the futuristic Neo-Tokyo, that, I think, is the big fucking lie. Look at how wrong humans get that kind of shit. Neo-Tokyo, Cyberpunk, Fallout even. These are all things that are rooted in what we're afraid of. It's kind of a, what would you fucking do in this environment? Some of it's a naughty, like, you can kind of do anything. What would you do in this anything environment? Here is an open world thing, go fuck around. You know, what does it mean if there's a bunch of synths? What does artificial life mean? What does this mean? What about clones? What about this? What about that? You know, that's part of what science fiction does, is it asks these heady questions. I don't think that humans, by and large, are without as much empathy as it would be required for those things to exist. Night City couldn't exist because that much lack of empathy is I just don't think it's realistic. When people say, well, what about, oh, you know, you've never been to, and they'll name a third world country and a third world city. That is temporary. And yes, I know we're talking about people's lifetimes. And yes, I know it's been decades that things have been the way they've been. And sometimes it's been longer than decades. China's a great example of this. China was stuck in the fucking Stone Age. They got, you know, they got up to the feudal era, then got bombed back to the Stone Age by the fucking Japan in World War II. And then from that, now have metropolises that are empty, that they've built because they could, because they found a way to profit off of that and to do whatever. I don't know, the Vice story about these empty cities in China, I want to say there's 9 of them. Maybe it's 7. It's 7 or 9. I think it's 9. There's 9 of these empty cities. And they're massive metropolises that are built. And they're beautiful. And one's a recreation of Paris. One's a recreation. And there's fucking like, they're at 2% occupancy. Like nobody fucking lives there. A great way to hide out and disappear if, you know, if that's your bag. But you're still in fucking China. So, my point is you have to deal with the Chinese government, not that Chinese people are a problem. Lovely, amazing people. One of the oldest cultures on the planet. So that's happened within, like, my grandmother's lifetime. That's happened. Okay, so if a billion population country can have that dramatic of a change in one human's lifetime, what is going to happen when the whole world can instantaneously talk to each other? And we've been able to do that for one lifetime. We're not there now. Everyone says we're there now. Everyone is not online. Not every single person on the planet has an access to 5G signal or device anywhere on the surface of the earth. I'm talking about pure saturation. When saturation exists, not if there's only 2.7 billion people online and our population's at 7 billion people, we're not even at fucking halfway. When 7 billion people are able to share a single note, what's that note going to be? More importantly, what's the next note going to be? What's the song that they're going to write? What words are they going to say? What words are we going to say? That's my lifetime that this happens. It's got to be something that politicians and lawmakers and young people that are going to run for office, we need to be talking about this every fucking day, and we're not. I don't think that when that happens, what we're going to hear is a voice that says, I want to kill everybody. I want to rule everybody. I want to control everybody. I think the starting point is going to be empathy. Those other things are going to show up, but most people are not fixers for the mob. Most people are not psychotic. Most people are not serial killers or rapists or pedophiles or there's not 7 million Jeffrey Epsteins. There's not 7 million Hitlers. There's not 7 billion, I'm sorry. There's not 7 billion Hitlers. It doesn't make any sense to expect 7 billion people to have zero empathy. So if there's empathy, and that reasonable empathy, and then the unreasonable empathy, and then there's all the other stuff. And if you just used America as a dichotomy, and look how divided we are, how broken things are. There's a lot of manipulation going on. The general population is being manipulated a lot. They're being manipulated to the left. They're being manipulated to the right. They're being manipulated in the middle. There's all sorts of other shenanigans that are happening. But what I keep seeing is people fighting for an excuse to humanize each other. Yes, there's a lot of shit talking. There's a lot of yada, yada, yada. But what I keep seeing is that's not the majority. You play online video games, what happens? You fuck up, and 2 or 3 people will talk shit to you to make you feel bad. At least this is what it does to me. And I talk shit back, whatever. But you just played a game with 12 people. Only 2 of them are being nasty. Everybody else is just in the game. No matter how they feel, they're not being shitty. So that's not the majority, is it? Very few times, and I don't think I've ever seen it, where everybody in the game on the chat talked shit to one player and said, unless that person started off by being really shitty. You know, some 12-year-old kid or something who's got his mic hooked up and is playing some really hard to understand music really loudly and then screaming into the microphone. Okay, then everybody gets pissed at that, but they usually mute that person, or they kick that person, or they ban that person. It's not that's a direct logical consequence to a shitty action. There's not somebody who's playing the game and fucking up and then everyone shits on them. Why? Because they're empathetic, because at some point somebody had to start at that point too. it's natural for the majority of people to empathize, even in fucking toxic ass shitty video game world where there's no consequences for being a complete asshole. At least, there's not a lot of consequences. You get that on every internet site, every website. Oh, well, the trolls are terrible. They're terrible compared to your regular walking life. They're terrible because in real life, if you talk like that to people, you get your ass kicked. You get punched in the face, or you get hit with things, or somebody fucking shoots you. People are murdered over words every fucking day. So the internet is kind of a purge place where you can say all the words that you're feeling and no one's going to kill you or arrest you or punch you in the face or even really affect you in any way. So people that feel like shit inside can dump that in the internet, walk away from it, turn their computer off, their phone off, whatever, and I just had a therapy session. And that's kind of what's happening. Go into one of these threads, one of these chat rooms, whatever it is, and look at the toxic comments and then look at the not toxic comments. No matter what, there's opinions that can be volatile, but they're not toxic necessarily. Look at the actual toxic, shitty comments. Look at the comments that are predatory, the comments that are sociopathic or whatever it is. And look at the ones that are just regular people empathizing with something. How many of the comments are empathy and how many of the comments are shitty? And the empathy comments always win. It's not even close. Most of the time, even if somebody's wrong, where is their, don't judge the right or wrong, judge empathy and judge predatory. Is this person empathy or are they sociopathic or has this person got a problem? And you're going to see empathy more than anything. So when 7 billion people get online, they're going to empathize with each other. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We're not ready for that conversation right now. We are not ready to realize that there is... Think about it. 7 billion people are online. What's the likelihood that... Bitcoin is trading for $31,000 a coin right now. 31,000. That's double the boom that it was when it was $15,000 a coin. Everyone was losing their shit. It's now twice that, and almost nobody's talking about it. It's not the top fucking thing in the news. It's talked about on financial channels. Bloomberg talks about it kind of, but it's twice what it was when it was fucking everywhere. And everyone was saying, oh, it's a scam. And a bunch of people went to jail. Now, how is it twice that? It's twice as big as it was. So those people that were made Bitcoin millionaires, what was it, 2 years ago? If they doubled down and are still mining Bitcoin, that's triple what it was, or it's double what it was. So they've made 3 times their money. Remember, there's only a limited amount that you can make in Bitcoin, and then it stops. Blockchain with 7 billion people involved in it looks like something. We're talking, and we control our money globally. A centralized government doesn't control it. A corrupt organization doesn't control it. A corporation doesn't control it. We the people control the money. When we the people control the money everywhere in the world, and we can all simultaneously talk to each other, that conversation, this is like one of the most exciting things in human history, and it's a fucking miracle. It's like 200 miracles all piled on top of each other, and nobody's fucking talking about it. I haven't heard a single person talk about this thing. What's going to happen? What would that look like? It's not going to be utopia because people are still people. People are still going to kill each other. They're still going to get mad at each other. Crime is still going to happen. What we are going to erode, though, is massive government corruption is going to lose a big battle. Which it's due. We got a lot, and I think the fucking billionaires know this. I think they know it. I think they know it's coming, and it's they're hunkering down, they're building their fortresses, and they're building all this other shit because they know they're going to lose power. The thing is it doesn't matter. they're going to lose power, and the poor people are going to be able to not be poor. And what the oligarchs are going to discover is that the poor people not being poor doesn't threaten their billions. It actually makes them more money. So there's no reason to hold someone down. There's no reason for an organized crime person to shit on a bagel shop. If the bagel shop's doing good, your take is more. If it's doing bad and you're choking the life out of them, you're going to make them go bankrupt, and now you're losing. It's bad business. It's bad for business. You know, it's the same lessons. It's the same lessons wise guys have been teaching younger wise guys for fucking decades. It's the same lessons the British royalty taught to their fucking kids when royalty actually was a thing, and it wasn't whatever the fuck it is now. You know, when there wasn't parliament and all that stuff didn't exist. It was actually, and you take any royal family. It's what rich kids have been teaching their kids for generations is, you know, you don't kill the cow if you can breed more cows and you can sell the milk. It's better to keep the cow alive, make more cows, sell more milk. Then when you have a surplus, then you can kill the cow and you can sell the beef at twice the price. It's just economics. If we're the cows, stop choking the fucking life out of us. Let us produce. Give us enough so that we can go comfortably, happily. And people don't have to suffer. Suffering is expensive. It's dirty and it costs too much fucking money. Bitcoin is universal freedom, universal capitalism, and it's gonna level the fucking playing field. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I don't... There's a lot of frustration on my end and you know, people I'm around because of the protesting and stuff that we had last year that was just... It was a lot of noise, and I just don't know how effective it was. I'm glad that so many people are aware. I'm glad that so many people are paying attention. And, you know, African American folks have been telling us for decades... Go watch the episodes of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where they were talking about the way cops treat black people. They've been saying this. Watch Sanford and Son. Watch, you know, fucking pick a show. How long has this been a conversation? It's been a conversation for a long-ass time. It's not something that just popped up. So it's not, you know, there's a lot of things contributing to it. It's not just an ungrateful generation of spoiled brats saying, oh, the fucking police are keeping me down. It's not that simple. I wish to God it was. You know, it's got roots that are deep and old and ugly. And that's the kind of stuff that people are actually talking about now. They're actually having real conversations about it and getting pissed about it. And I'm glad there's a bunch of protests about it. But now we actually have to do something about it. We actually have to pass legislation. We have to reorganize the way the justice system works. You can't just start with the police. You have to start with the Department of Justice. You have to start with locking up black people in droves. You know, we've got to decriminalize black skin. We can't make dark skin be a criminal offense. And it's a lot of times that's how it is, whatever your perception is, whatever you personally have seen or dealt with, that's the reality for the black person. I have a friend who, someone we've worked with as an actor, who is a commander at a juvenile detention center, and he's a section of the sheriff's department, but he also is a officer for other agencies. So I think he has more than one badge. He's written like 20 fucking books, is an accomplished author amongst a bunch of other things. We know him as an actor, but the guy is just, he's got his shit together. He's an incredible human. So we set up an acting rehearsal for him for the show. He was in a show I directed. He's one of my actors. He's a clean-cut, well-looking African American gentleman who has there's nothing about him that he's got a short cropped hair. I mean, he looks like a cop, and he's got on nice clothes, sitting in a nice car, in a Starbucks parking lot, parked, drinking his coffee, reading his lines, going over because he's gonna have a rehearsal with this really amazing acting coach, who was one of the original Fly Girls, by the way. So somebody semi-famous. And he gets rolled. Two cops pull up. Officer comes up to his window, says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm drinking my coffee." He says, "Yeah, but what are you doing here?" "I'm drinking my coffee." "Do you have some ID?" "Yes." And they start giving him shit, but as soon as he opens that ID and they see the badge, they say, "Oh yeah, have a nice day." Fuck you! You profiled this guy. And there's another friend we have who's a member of the Chicago Police Department. A black woman, that's a cop during George Floyd. So what you may not know is Chicago police officers have to live within the city limits. They have to. They can't live in another neighborhood and then commute to work. They have to live in Chicago. The idea is that they'll be from the neighborhoods that they're policing, and it doesn't quite work out like that. And there's so many other problems, and corruption is such an issue, and a bunch of other shit is an issue. So it's not as effective as that idea, which seems like a nice idea, would be. And it's just, I've heard all sorts of ways to fix it, and on set, I make it a point to talk to the first responders on set. I talk to the paramedics. I talk to the cops. When am I going to ever get to talk to a police officer in not that setting where they're happy to talk about work because they're technically on duty, but, I'm not a cop, I'm not a reporter, and they're not trying to arrest me. It's not, I'm not a client. I'm just a citizen having a conversation with another citizen who happens to be a public servant and getting their perspective. And there's a lot of frustration from officers who feel like they don't have any good answers, and there is no one size fits all, and there are problems within the department. There was a Sergeant Fox that I talked to before he left. He retired, and I don't think he even lives in the state anymore. He was so jazzed up about the body cameras. He's like, "We're just gonna clean. We're cleaning house. We are cleaning." He was ecstatic about it. One of the best cops I have ever known just was somebody who was excited to be on set with us and excited to do his job and take care of the officers under his command, and just a guy who had been in for 30 years, who was getting out, full pension or something. I don't remember what it's, but it's decades. He's been doing the job for decades, and just was ready to retire, but was grateful for what he had done. And he said very honestly that there are no simple answers. It's going to take years of focused, concentrated effort, good legislation, good leadership, and a lot of accountability from a lot of different sectors within the city. One of his things, I think, and I'm sorry if he hears this and I'm misquoting him, is that you can't expect the citizens themselves to bootstrap, so to speak, if they don't have the infrastructure or resources to exist. Like, if their base level of survival is so low, the bootstrapping expectation is unrealistic. It's not, you can't bootstrap from that without breaking eggs, and pretty soon you're not breaking eggs for any other purpose other than breaking eggs. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, is the analogy I'm pulling from. So it's complicated, but we're going to have this conversation. We're going to have millions of people online talking about this. Look at the conversations that are happening in Chicago. Look at the conversations that are happening across the country that have never happened before. 30 years ago, you're going to have to please excuse me for using this word. I don't like to use this word very much. I don't like to use it at all. Saying the word faggot was a part of my daily dialogue. I said it 50 times a day. I said it to my friends. I said it to my brother. I said it to peers that I worked with. Everybody at the military academy said that word, and we used it all the time. We were just getting nervous about saying the N word. That was just starting to be a thing in the 90s, at least for me. And getting to a point, and you know, I've said it. I said it a bunch. I've said it to people in anger. I've said it like, and these are all things that I regret and I'm not proud of. I'm not bragging here. This is change on my part, coming away from the history of that and why it's not my word and why I don't want to say it. And I don't care if somebody says, yeah, but you can say, no, I can't. I do not want to say it. I don't want to say the word I just said. It's not. I talk to the guys that I used to know, and they don't say those words anymore. Nobody they know from that era speaks the same. That's in my lifetime. People were talking like that for decades, 100 years, using the N-word. Just calling somebody boy. Like, that, I don't know any of my peers that do that are my age. Not a single one. In film, out of film. You know, one of the surliest sons of bitches I fucking know is a former sergeant in the Army and was in Iraq, and I don't know if he was in Ramadi. I think he was in Ramadi. And he was a bad motherfucker. He doesn't use those words. He said all sorts of shit when he was deployed, I'm sure. He doesn't talk like that. Absolutely won't do it. Is, you know, I just, so it's not a, and that's his choice to do that. He's choosing that. He knows that one thing, it's not politically correct on set, but he doesn't want to talk like that. Him and I have talked about this 100 times. He does not, that's not who he is. And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, so I look at the Special Forces guys I knew when I was in the military academy. The Green Berets didn't talk like that. At least none of the ones that I knew talk like that. The colonel would tell stories, and I think he would use homophobic slurs. But he never used a racial slur that I can remember. I might be sugarcoating that in my memory too. There were some other people, the fucking Marines I knew, like that's out the window. Fuck all that. It's just it's just a very, my point is it's a very different world. And it's evolving and it's changing, and we're being told a lot of stuff is evil and there's a lot of stuff that's this and that. We're also uncovering fucking things. People are telling on themselves. You know, how long has somebody like Epstein existed, Jeffrey Epstein existed, and didn't get caught? How many generations of those assholes have no consequences ever? We finally got one. He went down and Harvey Weinstein went down kind of at the same time? No fucking way. Me Too happened at the same time? No fucking way. That's a big deal. It's in my lifetime that Marcia Clark said, and it was quoted, so being black trumps being a woman. So a woman has less rights than a black anything in this country. And now we're starting to listen to our women. And they're not seen as separate and less important issues. They're the same issue. Well, what's that? These are people who deserve empathy and deserve to be treated as though they are people who are deserving of empathy. We have to give a shit about them because they're us. They're the same fucking thing that we are. You know, and it's not, there's this mindset that we're not the same, that I don't think is true. And I think when 7 billion people are online and 7 billion people are talking to each other and 7 billion people are in control of their financial reality, because blockchain is huge, we're going to have a very different conversation, and it's not going to be the kind of dystopia that we're playing video games of. It's just not going to fucking be like that at all. It's going to take time for countries that are considered third world countries to not be third world countries anymore. It's going to take time for Mexico to be the best version of itself, for El Salvador to be the best version of itself, you know, for Laos and Cambodia and Mongolia to be the best versions of themselves, for fucking Mumbai to be the best version of itself. That's going to take time. And all of these countries I've named in the city of Mumbai, I'm not blaming these places. I'm saying that that's just the reality. It's the reality that the county of San Bernardino is not the best version of itself. You know, Cook County is going to take time for the best version of itself to show up. But when 7 billion people are having a conversation and we have an option to getting ripped off by JP Morgan Chase, if I think of the thousands of dollars that banks have charged me over the course of my life for overdraft fees, for things like a pack of gum or their monthly service fee, the amount of times I've been charged an overdraft fee because a monthly service fee pinged my account at a bizarre fucking time, it's astronomical. And the fact that I have no way to fight back, the fact that the bank just gets away with it, and if I make trouble, you know, it can only go so far, because then the bank manager says there's nothing I can do, and then I'm left with the choice to close my bank account, which I can do, but then I have to go open another bank account because I have no options. That's not fucking true anymore. There's a lot of options, and they're getting better. Which means I'm going to have more of my money stay in my pocket longer, so when I work, more of what I earn is not going to be used as leverage by a rich person to make themselves more rich. I'm going to be able to use that on myself, on my family, on my environment, which literally is the thing that improves everything for everybody and was the idea behind Reaganomics. I don't think that's actually how it worked, but, we're going to trickle down and people are going to be able to use their money to improve the economy, improve everything. I don't think that mindset doesn't account for the other guy's greed, just like communism doesn't. Somebody in that trickle down is going to get greedy. Somebody to the right or the left of trickling down is going to get greedy. And they're going to be like, fuck that. We can take more from those below us and there's nothing they can do about it. So that was kind of the nonsense. The political part got a little nonsensical. I mean, not really, but it's, the point is the conversation and knowing, I hope that people leave the show today being inspired that you're not alone in your need to create something. You're not alone in thinking things outside of, I don't know somebody who hasn't seen something or didn't figure something out or didn't invent something or didn't do something like that where they knew what was going to happen and they didn't tell anybody, or they held it inside, or they didn't really go with it, or they didn't write it down. And I'm saying you don't have to be afraid to do that anymore. You have permission to invent things, to voice ideas, to call it as you see it, and to move forward. And I hope that that's what people got out of today's show. And I hope that you got out of it that there's amazing stuff coming. And I hope that I can invent some of it. And I hope that you invent some of it. And I hope we get to step into the future together with a lot of amazing, interesting stuff. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to a brave new world. And I don't think that the volatility, at least in the United States, that we've experienced these last 4 years is the only answer. I think that this showed us more than anything, the press needs to be, we got to fix that. We got to fix that. We got to fix social media. There's got to be regulation on social media. There has to be boundaries and limitations. Don't fucking regulate the internet. Leave the internet alone. The internet's like the ocean. You're not going to regulate that. You can regulate boats that go in the ocean, but you're not going to regulate the ocean. So, social media is a big ship. There's a bunch of them. You can regulate the ship, license the ship, do all sorts of rules and regs for that so that they don't crash and kill a bunch of people. Because right now, the statistics on preteen female suicide is the highest it's ever been in the history of the country. Period. Fucking period. More girls are dying because of social media than were dying of medical reasons in the 1800s. Think about that. The amount of preteen suicide is up like 180%. We got to do something. Go watch The Social Dilemma. Every day. Go watch The Social Dilemma. Memorize it. It's we've got to get it through. I don't give a shit who's in office. I didn't have any hope that the narrative around Trump would calm the fuck down enough for anybody to get this into him to say, hey, listen, we need to make this a priority. And, Congress has seen it a bunch and still hasn't done anything. And I don't know that lending his voice to it would have helped. I think somebody would have toxified it and it wouldn't have mattered, good or bad, whatever you believe about Trump. It wouldn't have helped. Hopefully that's not the case with Biden, and hopefully it's not up to Biden. Hopefully it's up to Congress, and they do their job and pass a bill that brings balance to social media, has consequences for things, makes it illegal for someone like Russia and China to create advertising that is subversive to American politics. They did it. They did it legally. They got away with it. Mark Zuckerberg said to Congress, we're working on it. We're going to fix it. No. That's up to Congress. That isn't up to the social media companies. That's not how that works. We've tried that and other things before. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. And it's Silicon Valley. It's the kids in Silicon Valley who were former heads of monetization at Facebook that are screaming this from the rooftops saying, listen, this is a fucking problem. The guy who's spearheading this used to be a big name at Google. Walked away from it. You've got tech people scared and quitting. There's a reason. We got to pay attention to it. We got to do something about it. This isn't about protesting in the let's chain ourselves to a fire hydrant kind of way. We have different options now, and where we spend our money and what we talk about has way more power. So let's talk about it. You can still call your senators, still call your congressperson and blow them up. Make sure you're heard, because it's their job to listen to you and they have to take your call. So there's that, and I might call my congressperson tomorrow. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening. I'm Shark Punch 007, and this is the Steel Phoenix Podcast. I appreciate you so much. You all have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time.